All right, so you want to talk about rental property investing, huh? Looks like you sent over a whole lot of info for us to dig through.
Yeah, wow, that's quite the stack of research.
We got the rental property investing FAQ and even a copy of the book on rental property investing here.
Sounds like someone's serious about building some wealth, maybe even getting some passive income through real estate.
And that's exactly what we're here for, to help you figure out if it's right for you. We'll break down those strategies and see if there are any pitfalls we need to watch out for.
We'll unpack it all for you. And hopefully by the end of this deep dive, you'll know if rental property investing is the right path to financial freedom for you.
Love it. So right off the bat, the FAQ jumps into all these different types of rental properties.
Yeah, it can get pretty overwhelming, huh?
It really can.
Yeah.
There's single-family homes, multifamily complexes, condos, townhomes, and then they even start mentioning foreclosures and fixer-uppers.
Right.
I mean, where do we even begin with all that?
Well, I think the most important thing is to understand the differences between each type.
Okay, sure.
And then you can see how they fit into your investing goals.
Gotcha.
Like, single-family homes might be easier to manage, but they might not give you as much cash flow right away as, say, a multifamily property.
Right. That makes sense.
So it really depends on what you're looking for.
Okay. And what about these fixer-uppers?
Oh, yeah.
The FAQ talks about this strategy called BRRRR, buy a rehab, rent, refinance, repeat.
Yeah, that's a popular one.
Is it really the magic bullet it's made out to be?
Well, it can be a powerful strategy if you want to grow your portfolio quickly, but it definitely comes with its own risks.
Oh, really?
For sure. A lot of it depends on how well you can figure out the after repair value of the property
Ah,
and then getting the right financing, not just for the purchase, but also for the refinance.
makes sense.
And even then, you could run into unexpected costs during renovations,
Right.
or the market could shift. And that can totally throw a wrench in the whole plan.
So it's not as easy as just finding some rundown house and flipping it for a quick profit.
Not quite, no.
Okay, so you really need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, if you want to do BRRRR, you got to have a good eye for finding those undervalued properties,
I see.
a reliable network of contractors, and a good understanding of the local real estate market.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It is. It's definitely not passive.
Okay. So we have a decent understanding of the types of properties and some of the strategies. But how much money do we really need to get started with all this?
That's the big question, right?
That is.
Well, the FAQ talks a lot about financing. And one of the biggest things people get wrong is thinking they need a ton of cash to buy rental properties.
Yeah, I can see how people would think that.
They don't realize how powerful leverage can be.
Leverage.
You can use mortgages to buy a much more valuable property than you could if you were just paying cash.
Okay, so like putting down 20% and having the tenant's rent cover the mortgage?
Exactly. That's leverage in action.
That makes a lot of sense. But lenders aren't just giving out loans to anybody about it.
No, definitely not. They look at everything. Credit history, debt to income ratio.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They want to see that you're financially stable.
Right.
The FAQ actually breaks down some of the nuances of that DTI ratio.
Okay.
There's the front-end ratio, which just looks at your housing expenses, and then the back-end ratio, which takes into account all of your debts.
And they use both of those to decide if they'll give you a loan.
Yep, and what kind of interest rate you'll get.
Okay, cool. So let's say our finances are all squared away. We understand how leverage works, and we're pre-approved for a loan. How do we even start looking for these investment properties?
I mean, it feels like a jungle out there, right?
It does.
Well, the FAQ lists some different ways to find deals.
Like what?
The traditional multiple listing service, or MLS.
Okay, sure.
But they also talk about some more creative strategies like direct mail marketing and even driving for dollars.
Driving for dollars.
Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't. What is that?
It sounds too simple, but it can actually be really effective. Imagine you're driving through a neighborhood and you see a house that looks neglected. Maybe the lawn hasn't been mowed or there's peeling paint.
Okay, I've seen those.
Right. So you jot down the address, you do some research on the owner and maybe send them a letter. You might find a seller who's really motivated to get rid of the property. Maybe they'll give you a good deal.
That's a pretty cool way to find those hidden gems.
It is. You got to be willing to put in the work, though.
All right, so let's say we found a property that looks promising. What happens next?
Then comes the fun part,
Which is,
due diligence. You got to become a detective and make sure there aren't any hidden problems.
okay.
Because those can turn a good investment into a financial nightmare.
So we're talking more than just a quick walkthrough and slapping on a fresh coat of paint.
Oh, yeah, way more than that. You
Yeah.
want to order a title search to make sure there aren't any liens on the property?
Leasing.
Yeah, like if someone else has a claim to the property.
Okay, right.
And then review the tax records. Get the property's financial history.
Makes sense.
And of course, a thorough inspection by a professional. They can spot things like structural damage or termite infestation that you might miss.
Wow, so due diligence is all about protecting ourselves.
It is. You're making sure you're making a smart investment.
I'm starting to feel like a real estate Sherlock Holmes here.
That's the spirit.
But what about the other half of the equation?
You mean?
The tenants.
Yes,
They can make or break your investment right.
absolutely. The FAQ talks about how important tenant screening is.
So what does that involve?
It's more than just checking their credit and making sure they have a job.
What else is there?
You want to check their references, talk to previous landlords, get a feel for their rental history. Are they reliable? Do they pay their rent on time? Do they take care of the property?
So we're looking for tenants who are going to pay their rent on time, treat the property with respect, and not cause any drama.
You got it. And you got to be really clear with your communication from the start. Set expectations and boundaries.
Oh yeah, a good lease agreement is important too.
Absolutely. That can help prevent a lot of headaches down the line.
Okay. I'm starting to see that there's a lot more to this than just collecting rent checks. But let's fast forward a bit. We've built this amazing portfolio. The cash is flowing in. We're living the dream of passive income. What happens next?
Well, eventually you'll need an exit strategy. The FAQ covers a few different options.
Like what?
You could just hold on to the properties forever, pass them down to your kids, create a real estate legacy.
A real estate dynasty. I like the sound of that.
It's a good option for some people.
But what if we want to cash out sooner than that?
You could sell the properties for cash, but usually that means you'll owe capital gains taxes.
Oh, right. And that can eat into your profits.
It can, but there are other strategies like a 1031 exchange.
A 1031 exchange.
Have you ever heard of that?
I have, but I don't really understand how it works.
It's a way to defer those capital gains taxes.
Okay.
You basically sell one property and then immediately use those funds to buy another one.
And that lets you avoid paying the taxes.
You defer them. It's a powerful way to build long-term wealth through real estate.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So 1031 exchanges is something to look into. But before we get ahead of ourselves, the FAQ also talks about building a good team.
Oh yeah, your team is everything.
What do they mean by that?
Well, you're going to need a good real estate agent, a lender, contractors, attorneys.
It sounds like we're building a real estate Avenger squad here.
That's a good way to put it.
And don't forget mentors.
Oh yeah. Having someone who's been there, done that can be invaluable. They can help you avoid costly mistakes.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here. Different types of properties, financing strategies, due diligence, exit strategies. But there's one more thing from the FAQ that I wanted to touch on.
What's that?
Mold.
Mold.
Yeah, they have a whole section on it.
They do.
It seems like an odd thing to focus on. But I'm intrigued.
Well, the FAQ points out that properties with mold issues often scare away regular buyers.
Right, because nobody wants to deal with that.
Exactly. So that creates opportunities for investors who understand how to handle it.
So it's about turning a negative into a positive.
Exactly. You can get a great deal on a property that needs some mold remediation.
Mold remediation, huh? Never thought I'd be adding that to my vocabulary.
It's all part of the game. But of course you have to know what you're doing. You got to understand the causes, the health risks, the proper procedures for getting rid of it safely and effectively.
Okay, so mold is something we need to learn about.
If you're serious about rental property investing, then yes.
Got it. But before we all go out and start looking for the moldiest houses we can find, the FAQ really stresses the importance of one more thing.
What's that?
Systems.
Ah, yes. Systems. The backbone of any successful business.
And they say that applies to rental property investing too.
Absolutely. You need systems for everything.
Everything.
Tenant communication, rent collection, property maintenance, financial management.
Wow, that's a lot of systems.
It is. But they make everything run smoother.
Okay, so we're not treating this like a mobby.
Nope. This is a business. You got to treat it that way if you want to be successful.
Gotcha. So systems are key. We've covered a ton of ground just with this FAQ, but I feel like we've only scratched the surface here.
We have. And luckily, we have the book on rental property investing to dive even deeper.
I'm ready for it. But first, I think we need a little break to let all this information sink in.
Sounds good to me.
We'll be back soon to continue our exploration of rental property investing. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle the book on rental property investing. I've heard this one really gets into the nitty-gritty, like the strategies that separate the pros from the amateurs.
It does. It goes beyond just the mechanics of buying and managing properties. It talks about the mental game, the psychology of investing.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about crunching numbers and analyzing deals. There's a mindset component, too.
Big time. The book talks about developing a wealth-building mindset. It's about seeing opportunities where other people just see problems.
I like that. So like shifting from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
Exactly. Believing that there are always deals out there and that you can achieve success if you have the right approach.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But how do we actually cultivate this wealth-building mindset? Does the book give any practical tips?
It does. It has a bunch of exercises and strategies to help you reprogram your thinking.
Like what?
Well, one of the key concepts is flipping the switch.
Flipping the switch.
Yeah, going from I can't to how can I.
Oh, I see.
It's about taking control of your financial future.
Okay.
Instead of just sitting around and hoping for the best, you're actively pursuing your goals.
So it's about becoming a doer, not a dreamer.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
But let's be real for a second. Real estate investing can be tough, right? There are going to be challenges, setbacks. How does the book address that?
It emphasizes having a long-term vision.
Okay.
Thinking of it as a marathon, not a sprint. Right.
It reminds you that setbacks are going to happen.
Sure.
But there are also opportunities to learn and grow.
So you got to embrace the journey.
Exactly. Learn from your mistakes
Yeah,
and come back stronger.
makes sense. But the book also talks about strategic planning, right?
It does. You can't just say, I want to buy rental properties and leave it at that.
Yeah.
You need a plan.
A roadmap.
Right. What are your goals? Who's your target market? What are your investment criteria? How are you going to build your portfolio?
So get specific.
Yeah, break down that big goal into smaller, actionable steps.
I like it. So how does the book suggest we do that?
Well, it asks some thought-provoking questions.
Like?
Like, how many properties do you want to buy in the next year? What type of properties fit your strategy? Which areas have the most potential for growth? How are you going to finance these deals? And maybe most importantly, how are you going to manage those properties once you own them?
Right, because you could hire a property manager or you could do it yourself.
Exactly. Answering these questions will help you create a focused and actionable plan. Okay, so that's the planning part. But the book also gets into the whole finding deals thing, right?
It does, and it's pretty realistic about it.
How so?
It says you have to be willing to look at a lot of properties before you find the right one.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
And you got to be prepared to make offers, knowing that a lot of them are going to get rejected.
So it's a numbers game.
It is. You got to be persistent.
Kind of like dating, but for real estate.
That's a good analogy. You got to kiss a lot of frogs to find your prince. Or in this case, your cash-flowing castle.
Exactly. And it's not just about looking at a lot of properties.
Right. You got to know what to look for.
So you can spot those hidden gems that other people miss.
Exactly. The book talks about being smarter than the smarties.
Okay, so crunching those numbers, understanding the market, knowing how to assess the real value of a property.
All of that. And just as important is knowing when to walk away from a deal.
Oh, yeah. Even if it seems like a good deal on the surface.
Sometimes the best deals are the ones you don't make.
True. Okay, so we found that potential gem. The book then talks about financing, right? That could be a whole complicated world.
It can be. But the book breaks down all the different options, from traditional bank loans to private lending to creative strategies like the BRRRR method we talked about earlier.
Right.
It's all about understanding the different types of loans, the interest rates, the terms.
So you can choose the best option for your situation.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes having your financial ducks in a row before you even start looking at properties.
Oh, yeah, like having good credit managing your debt, having some cash reserves.
Exactly. Be prepared so you can jump on those opportunities when they pop up.
Makes sense. So we've got the financing figured out. Then comes the due diligence phase, right?
Yep, time to put on your detective hat.
Gotta make sure there aren't any skeletons in the closet.
Or water damage in the basement.
Right. The book really stresses the importance of those inspections and title searches and reviewing all the documents.
You don't want any surprises popping up after you've already bought the property.
Nope. So due diligence is all about protecting yourself.
It is. It's about making sure you're making a smart and informed investment.
So be thorough.
Yeah.
Be meticulous. Maybe even a little bit paranoid.
Huh. Better safe than sorry.
Exactly.
Huh.
Okay, so we bought the property. Now we got to manage it.
Right, because finding the property is just the first step.
Managing it effectively is how you actually make money.
The book has a lot of good advice on that. It talks about setting up systems for everything,
Hmm.
tenant screening, rent collection, maintenance requests, dealing with tenant issues.
So it's about being organized and proactive,
Absolutely. And treating it like a real business.
not just a side hustle.
Right. It also talks about building relationships with reliable contractors, plumbers, electricians.
Oh, yeah, you need those people on speed dial.
Definitely. And it reminds you to stay up to date on all the laws and regulations. Things are always changing in the real estate world.
Sounds like property management requires a whole different skill set.
It does. It's a lot of juggling different things. But if you can master it, it can be very rewarding.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of the core concepts of the book,
Mm.
but I remember you mentioned something about the book highlighting some unexpected opportunities,
Mm.
like those mold-infested properties we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, the book talks about finding value in places where other people wouldn't even look.
So like properties that need a lot of work,
Huh.
or maybe they're in a less desirable location,
Cheap.
or they have difficult tenants.
All of the above. These can actually be great opportunities for investors who know how to add value.
So it's like those house flipping shows where they take a rundown property and transform it.
Kind of. But it's not always about doing major renovations. Sometimes it's just about being creative and finding solutions to problems that other people don't want to deal with.
So turning those perceived negatives into positive opportunities.
Exactly. And the book gives you some strategies for doing that. How to find these undervalued properties, how to negotiate a good price, how to fix the problems without breaking the bank,
Okay, that's really interesting. So we're seeing a theme here.
which is,
Systems. The book keeps coming back to the importance of having systems in place.
it does. It says that systems are the key to running a smooth and successful rental property business.
So you need a system for everything. Screening tenants, collecting rent, managing, maintenance, handling finances.
All of it. Having those systems in place will save you so much time and hassle in the long run.
Okay, so systems are essential. I gotta say, my head is spinning a little bit with all this information,
It's a lot to take in.
but in a good way. I'm really starting to understand the depth and complexity of rental property investing.
It's definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme, but it can be a very rewarding way to build wealth and create financial freedom.
Okay, so we're back, and I'm ready for the grand finale of our deep dive into the book on rental property investing. I'm sure there's still a few gems we haven't uncovered yet.
Oh, definitely. And this last part really ties everything together. We've talked a lot about the practical stuff, the strategies, the systems, but the book also emphasizes something else,
What's that?
a mindset shift.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
It's all about reframing problems as opportunities. Remember those properties we were talking about earlier, the ones that most people would walk away from?
You mean the fixer-uppers, the ones with the difficult tenants?
Those are the ones the book says those can actually be the most profitable opportunities.
Really?
Yeah, because those are the properties that scare away most buyers, so you can often get them at a steep discount.
Ah, I see.
If you know how to add value, you can turn those problem properties into real moneymakers.
So instead of seeing a problem, you see potential.
Exactly. You're not running away from the problem, you're running towards it.
Okay, I like that. But it sounds like you need a certain level of expertise to pull that off.
You do, and that's where your team comes in, those contractors, lenders, attorneys, mentors we talked about. They're your secret weapons.
So it's all about having the right people in your corner.
It makes a huge difference. They can help you navigate those challenges and make sure you're making smart decisions.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. You gotta have the right mindset, the right team, and a solid plan.
Exactly. And you got to be prepared for things to go wrong. Because they will.
Though yeah, real estate investing is not for the faint of heart.
Nope. That's why the book talks about having a plan B.
Like a backup plan.
Exactly. What if the market takes a dive? What if you have a major unexpected repair? What if your tenant suddenly stops paying rent?
Oh man, I don't even want to think about that.
Well, you gotta think about it. That's what separates the successful investors from the ones who give up. Having those contingency plans will help you weather the storm.
So it's all about managing risk.
It is. And that brings us to our final takeaway from this deep dive.
I'm all ears.
Rental property investing is a journey. It's not about finding that one perfect deal and then retiring to the beach.
So it's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Definitely not. It takes time, effort, and a willingness to constantly learn and adapt.
So what's the best way to get started on this journey?
The book suggests starting with your goals. What are you trying to achieve? Why are you doing this? Write it all down.
So you got to have a clear vision.
Absolutely. Then you can start working on that detailed plan we talked about earlier. Figure out your niche, your buying strategy, your financing, your management approach. It's all about creating a roadmap to success.
And what about networking? I've heard that's really important in real estate.
It's crucial. Connect with other investors, go to meetups, join online forums. You can learn so much from other people's experiences.
And you never know who you might meet.
Exactly. And then just start analyzing deals. The more you do it, the better you'll get at spotting those hidden gems.
And never stop learning.
Right. Read books, listen to podcasts, take courses, find a mentor. The real estate world is constantly evolving, so you got to stay ahead of the curve.
Wow, that's a lot of great advice. I feel like we've covered everything from A to Z.
We've barely scratched the surface, but hopefully this deep dive has given you a good foundation.
And maybe even inspired you to take action.
That's what we're here for, to empower you to create the financial future you deserve.
So there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into the world of rental property investing. We hope you found it informative and maybe even a little bit entertaining.
And remember, this is just the beginning. The real journey starts now.
So go out there and make it happen.
And happy investing.